What's up, party people? It's it's playing. Here, let me help you out. Yeah. We have it playing in the background so that we can make sure the audio is good. And today we had it playing in the background. What's up, party people? I'm Chris with Pro Photo. This is Geared Up. This is our weekly live broadcast where we talk about gear, lighting techniques. We talk about setups, breakdowns. We have fun. We take questions. We talk photography, specifically lighting, taking your questions. Today is not too heavy. It's more of a cool thing that I ran across a few years ago that I had to really think about. Because when I originally saw it, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm like, why would you be doing that way? And then as I've digested it over time, I've thought about it a little bit more and more and more, and realized it's actually a really cool lighting setup. And today that's going to involve an umbrella, a translucent umbrella, and a diffusion panel. So traditionally, when you use an umbrella with a diffusion panel, it goes on something like this right here. Cool. So you have this diffusion panel, the light's going to shoot into it. And what that's going to do, the light's going to bounce around inside the reflector. It's going to hit this diffusion panel, which again, diffusion just evens out light. It does not make it softer. It does not change the size of this modifier. So it evens out the light and gives you a nice, beautiful, even light coming out straight across. A back black reflector with this diffusion essentially turns this into a softbox. So you're getting the light right where you want it. What this does is it prevents any stray light from kind of shooting out from behind. And inversely, whenever you're using a shoot-through umbrella and a back panel, so which this diffusion panel would become black and you'd be using a shoot-through umbrella here, it does the same thing. Keeps the light from kind of spewing all over the room, gives you a lot more control. But what if we could utilize the fact that a lot of diffusion means you have less control? And by having less control, you actually have more control. Weird, right? Is that like a weird way of thinking about that? What I'm talking about, pull this over here. What I'm talking about is taking a translucent umbrella and instead of putting a back panel on the front of it, putting a diffuser on the front of it. So now we have this 360-degree light, right? So we're just gonna walk around the world real fast so we can see what's going on here. So essentially what's happening is, and granted, I'm going to say this technique really only works in a situation where you have a space with some white ceilings and white walls or whatever. Like you don't have to have a tiny space. It can be relatively bigger, but this technique's going to work in a space where maybe you can't put a lot of lights. Maybe you don't have a lot of room. This is a really, really cool way of adding in some extra room fill to your light, kind of giving you an even softer look. So what we're doing with this in theory, and not in theory, I'll show you with both lights. What we're doing is we're using this diffuser. So when the light goes into this, there's going to be light shooting out of the back of the umbrella. It's a shoot-through umbrella. It's what it's supposed to do. But that doesn't stop it from illuminating the inside of the umbrella and pushing more light forward. So essentially what we'll do is we'll light the subject with the front part, this flat part of the diffuser panel. And the back part of this will actually throw light all around the room, giving us a lower contrast ratio. So essentially giving us a room fill, which is really nice. So again, two lights in one. So we're getting a main light on our subject, and we're using the light coming out of the back of this thing to fill up the room and give us a room fill. So we're getting a second light out of it. Again, if you are gear limited, this is a great technique. If you are space limited, this is a great technique. Our studio space in here is probably, I think we've said this before in the past, 20 or 25 by about, I think it's about 14 to 15 feet wide. It's 15, yeah, because the roll of seamless is a 12-footer. So we're working with about 15, maybe even 16 feet wide. So not a tiny space, not a huge space either. But this will work again in something a little bit bigger than this because we're really just utilizing the room bouncing around. And we can utilize this even more by backing the light up. This is also something that, depending on your camera settings, you might need a little more power for. Granted, you could open up your lens a lot more than I do in here. So you hear me say I'm shooting f8. That's because I'm always kind of, combating a whole bunch of video lights to try to make sure that you see what the flash is doing and not any extra light from the video lights. Granted, I could open up and turn the power way down and get a lot more out of this. But in my setup shooting f8, I'm using a B10X Plus. I'm only at a power of 8.5, so I still have another stop and a half to go up if I needed to. But it is something that you may have to think about with power-wise, but then again, because you may not have to shoot f8, you'll probably be fine. But again, all we're doing is we're using the front of the diffusion panel to light our subject, and we're using the back of the shoot through umbrella to light the room and give us a beautiful fill. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to throw the traditional umbrella back onto the light. We're going to take a photo, and then we're going to put this back on, and that way you can actually see the comparison. It's not a huge It's not a huge difference, but there is a difference, and it might be something that could benefit you in your work. So let's do it. Take this bad boy off.
And if you have any questions.
Yep, any questions, drop them. I can't imagine there's a ton of questions on this. It's a pretty straightforward idea. But again, the first time I ever saw somebody doing this in my brain, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That's not really how you're supposed to use that. And then I forgot the part where you can learn the rules and then learn the rules and break them. Granted, this person that I saw doing it, I don't think they knew what they were doing because they were pretty fresh to flash photography. But
it still inspired an idea.
But it still inspired an idea, and it was low key pretty smart. So shouts out.
Also, I love the way that you put the diffuser onto the umbrella. That's like a really
I feel, who was it that taught me that? I feel like it was somebody taught me that because I was always doing like the around the world thing with it, and someone was like, "Hey, you could just open the umbrella inside the diffuser." See, I learned stuff from people too. So let's see.
Ready for me?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just making sure that it's out of the frame for the most part. Cool, we are. So the interior of this umbrella is a white interior, so white finish. Trying to keep everything relatively the same since the translucent's also a white finish and not a silver finish. So I don't know that it matters that much, but this is how we're doing it. So you ready to rock? We're not necessarily comparing power output, so I don't think it's as big of a deal. Here, I'm going to try to sneak this out of the way. Also, I have a fill card kind of in the way of the side. No, we're fine here. Yeah, we're good. Cool. Also, yeah, I didn't mention this. So again, B10X Plus, large umbrella. This is the 52 or 4-inch umbrella. Great umbrella. Diffusion panel on the front of it. White interior. V-flat world. V-flat right here. Just some fill just off camera. Just to kind of add in a little bit of extra bounce. It's something I added last minute before we went live. Just playing with some stuff. So cool.
Love that V-flat.
Yeah.
On one side,
yep.
On the other.
Let's see. So we're going to flip over to TTL mode. Make my friend John mad. Cool. Let's do that on. Perfect. Ready? 3, 2, 1. That might be maybe a hair more exposure than I want. Let me pull that back just a hair with my remote. Let me just double check that. That's pretty good. I'm just going to pull it back a little bit though.
Hand position?
Yeah. Pretty good. I would make sure that elbow's opened up a little bit more.
Okay.
3. Not the top elbow so much. Just make sure there's some breathing room between your elbow and your body. There you go. Cool. 3, 2, 1. All right, cool. That's way better. Yeah, that's better. So just stay right there. Don't move your body. We'll switch this out real fast. The nice thing about doing a comparison with umbrellas is how fast this is. Just toss that on the ground. This one. Perfect. Here we go. Ready? Three, 2, 1. Lovely. So it opens up the room just a hair. The and I'll pull this up so we can see a harder comparison. It's not a gigantic difference, but what we're getting, So with the white finish, the light's a little more direct, and not a little more direct. It's a lot more direct. It's not bouncing around everywhere. It's still a big, nice, soft modifier hitting her. But because the rest of the room contrast is a little bit lower, it's got more intensity on her face first and then kind of falling off. Whereas when we go to the one that you see on the screen now, hold on a second, where we go here, so what's happening is because we have all this extra light bouncing around the room, we're getting more evenness across her entire body. Now, yes, the light is still going to be more powerful here up by her face just because that's where the light is the closest, but we've backed it up just a hair, so it should be getting relatively even. It's not totally like, it's not like it's kicked off over here way to the side. So we are getting some light to her body. It's just getting to her face first. And then this room fill is helping bring that contrast down. And again, kind of giving you two lights in one. So again, this is not a super heavy live. It's just a really cool way of showing you how to use a modifier in which you can think outside of what you would normally think to do with a certain lighting setup. Again, this is something that I saw someone doing. I think they were doing it by mistake once. And then once I had some time to process it, it actually makes a ton of sense. So it's really just understanding how your light shapers work, understanding how light works, and how you can utilize those two things together to give you certain looks out of your modifier. So
know the rules to break the rules.
yeah, you have to know the rules to break the rules. And again, I say it all the time. You hear me say it all the time. It's important, but just think about how you can utilize what's around you as something to give you a beautiful light. And so let me pull my laptop forward so I can pull them up side by side. And you can see, again, the differences are very subtle, but there are differences there. And it's something that I think you should consider when you're trying to figure out what modifier you want. Also have, as usual, a million cables. I need to start wirelessly everything. Cool, let's go here and here. All right. So some big differences here. You can see my wavy background is a little less contrasty here than it is over here. We're getting a lot more kind of like dark ridges from me doing the incorrect thing and always having my background up horizontal. It is what it is. I just decided that I like to do more work for myself. So, but you can see that it's starting to kind of vignette out a little bit more, where here it's a little more subtle across the background. You can see here kind of have more of that hotter spot here. Right here, it's kind of gone. It's evened out. So we still have a nice highlight on her face. The light fall off is quite nice. You can see down the thigh and down the leg, pretty even compared to over here where we have, a little bit of a hot spot, not a hot spot, but more of a highlight there. But again, if you look at the hand here, a little bit more of a highlight here, whereas the hand to the rest of the arm is pretty darn even. The face to the rest of the body, pretty even again. I would expect more of this highlight, one, from the makeup kind of reflecting some light back, and because it's closer to the light source. It just is. So, but it falls off pretty even. The extra room fill also, again, brings that contrast down. They are both beautiful images, but if you were looking to lower that contrast, and again, maybe you have limited gear, or maybe your space only limits for maybe one or two lights, and you wanted to reserve a second light for maybe like a hair light or a kicker or something like that. This is a great way to get a second light out of your main light. I was about to say another word, and that didn't totally. Oh wait, we have a little computer freak out.
Let's see here. Can you change the light position to the opposite direction? I think it might show the differences.
Yeah, I can do whatever you'd like me to. Oh yeah, check that out. I think it might be time to buy a new.
They don't last forever.
A new cable. Yeah, especially when you roll it around as much as I do. Let's see if this pops back up real fast. Just want to see if it's a happy camper.
Pop that in.
Yeah, if it's gonna freak out, then I might have to try to change this thing out really fast. No.
If you have any questions,
pop them in. Just double checking. Just double checking my laptop connection because this cable looks angry all of a sudden. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's mad. I'll try one other thing and then I'm gonna try one other thing, and if that's not happy, then Nothing?
No,
Nula?
I think we're mustard.
Let me try one more thing.
Alright.
See if this is happy. I feel like I tried the, there it goes. I feel like I had tried the HDMI port in the past.
And we are back.
We're back. Perfect.
All right.
All right, cool. I'll be more than happy to move the light around for you. Yeah, so we just need to do...
Just don't move your computer anymore.
Let's leave these sitting like that. Yeah, I'm not going to move my computer anymore. But I might need a new cable.
She's a little glitch. Yeah.
Oh, is it still kind of freaking out? Huh.
Go ahead and knock people out.
Hang on a second. Let me see. It's the reason I use that secondary cable, because this one, it's a little heavy. And it tugs on the HDMI port. That's super good. That's a...
Just leave it.
Yeah. Don't
breathe on it.
It's Disco Computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna bring my...
Just don't breathe on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring my bounce card over here. I like my bounce card.
Awesome. Do we keep the same position of the chair?
Yeah, let's just keep the same position. Let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. So let's mix it up. Let's go main fill here. My room's the bouncing off the room size is roughly the same. I just don't want to. Here, let's go here. I might actually raise this up just a hair, just because I want it out of my frame. Let's see. No me gusta. Let's bounce back a little bit. So what's going to change here, just for the record, for people to see, the light is a lot further back than in the other image. So the evenness of the light going across hers should be a lot more. It should be way less contrasty. So that's what one of the big differences you're going to see. I'm having to back it up quite a bit to make sure it's out of my frame. So I might try to bring it around a little bit. See what happens. Let's just get weird. That's in my frame again. Let's just not get weird. There we go. Thank goodness for rolling light stands. That's fine. Whatever. I can edit that out. Here we go. Let's go to auto mode. 3, 2, 1. Oh, did I get you mid like mouth open? All right, one more time. 3, 2, 1. Just a nice even light. I mean, technically I prefer the light from the other side. I like it closer to her face, but this is fine. This is fine. We're fine. It's fine. I'm fine. Cool. Man, that thing is still freaking out. All right, hold on a second. Let's try one more time. I really wasn't expecting this cable to go down today. Let's see. All good. Just see if this pops up. Nothing? Nula? Niente? Talking there? No? Nope. All right, cool. If I have to, what I'll do is I'll post them up in on Instagram or something, or...
Yeah, so I'm gonna...
Oh, wait. We're live.
We got it.
We're live. All right, that's...
So there you go. There's your broad light.
That's the translucent. Let's do the not translucent version, the not set up version. Cool. Ready, Kate? Kiteolin. Now, again, some of the contrast decrease that you're seeing in some of this image is the fact that the light is further back. So something to keep in mind. Okay. Ready to go. Let's keep the power the same, 8.8. Let's see what happens. Personally, I prefer that short light look, but let's give this a try. I'm not going to touch the power level on the light. They're both, that first one was 8.8. This one's also 8.8. So 3, 2, 1. I have a feeling it's going to be more output. It is. Yeah. So the one thing that you can easily notice is that there's way more output out of the the bounced reflector forward. It's gathering all of that light and it's shooting forward, whereas a lot of light's being lost in the translucent umbrella going backwards. So I'm going to do one thing. I want to match exposure. I just want to see what happens. I'm going to put the translucent back on one more time because that looks nice. My taste is I prefer the short light, but I want to see if I give a little bit of a power bump to, because I believe on the first shot when I was showing you guys, and whenever I was doing testing earlier, I was doing about a half stop compensation. So I'm going to compensate this back up a half a stop and see what happens. Now I'm just curious. Cool, come in. Let's do this. All right, final shot, and we'll call it a day. Again, this is super light, easy to digest stuff. Just wanted to show you that it's fun to think outside of the box sometimes. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. There we go. That looks nice. And so, yes, that was with the, here, let's pull them side by side so you can see. Actually, I'm not going to move my computer.
Yeah, you just leave it right there. I will pull them up.
Because I don't want it to freak out. So let's do all three. Let's do all three of what we just did. So the first shot you see here was with the translucent. This was set.
They cannot see it.
It did it again. All right, cool. Here, let's. I was wondering why you were giggling. Let's see. Let me move this so I can.
There we go.
Cool.
Don't breathe.
I'm not going to breathe. Cool. So the first shot here is we let the TTL expose for the scene. It did an okay job. Maybe, you know, a little under what I wanted, but we came back here and we let that same power setting of 8.8 here for this shot right there. And we have this nice, beautiful, nicely illuminated shot. The again, you can see more of that light hitting here and then that vignetting here on the background off. Good coverage on Kate. Something that I was expecting to happen anyway because the light was backed up a lot further than in that first shot. Really, really pretty stuff. I decided to compensate that half a stop up from the light loss that we were getting with the translucent umbrella here on this third shot. And so this is the translucent umbrella with the diffusion panel. So kind of the setup that we were talking about today. And look how much more even that is. Look how much lower that contrast is. Look at the background. Is there maybe a hair vignetting up around the edges? Sure, that's fine. But we're getting a nice even light, both quite even across Kate. But if we look at here with the white umbrella with the diffusion panel, we definitely have a lot more highlights. Whereas here with this one, it's much smoother of a light. So really, really pretty stuff. Again, it's a great thing to have in your toolkit if you find yourself needing a second light and you don't have one, but you happen to have a translucent umbrella or a diffusion panel. It might be a good reason to keep something like this in your arsenal, just to have it just in case. Again, the diffusion panels with a traditional umbrella are fantastic because it gives you a quick soft box in a situation where you feel like maybe you need one. And now you have the shoot-through umbrella. So they all do things. And maybe we need to, I know a few years ago we dove into kind of why you would use a bounced umbrella versus a shoot-through umbrella. Maybe we need to revisit that and talk about that again. That way people maybe are a little bit more versed in why you choose the umbrella that you choose. But it's a really handy thing to have inside your arsenal. I would absolutely recommend having it. Again, you can get beautiful light with just the umbrella and diffusion panel alone. But understanding that you can utilize the backside of that translucent umbrella to get some room fill is pretty fantastic. So
someone was asking if you had talked about feathering the light at all.
I haven't talked about feathering. You could easily feather it. The upside for this technique with what we're doing, it doesn't really need feathering because the light is coming from every single direction. With your shoe, here, let's do this really fast. Here, so again, with this one, I can try to feather it. Here, let's have you jump back in here for it.
Sure, yeah.
I'm gonna move my computer. It's gonna get mad. We'll work it out. We'll work it out when it's time. Okay. We're happy there. So let's do this. I'm gonna feather them for you. What should happen when we feather the white umbrella with the diffusion panel is it should actually get more contrasty. So let's feather this one. Let's shoot this diffuser off to the side. And again, this is feathered. This isn't directly at her, but the light is coming from every single direction. So it probably isn't going to be too terribly different. And since I roughly know the power settings, we're just gonna ride with what we have. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. So that's feathered. Really nice. Still nice, huge, even. So let's go with I think this is probably the last thing we're shooting, so I'm gonna go ahead and break that down a little bit. Make life a hair easier. Cool. Cool.
Could you please specify what strobe you are using?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm using the B10X Plus. Earlier in the live, I was talking about why I went with the B10X Plus. So I have to overcome my video lights. It's just part of what I have to do in order for you to actually see the differences in the images, or actually even see what the light's doing just by itself. So I'm at f8, ISO 100, shutter speed of 1/25th of a second. That's the maximum shutter speed on my GFX before I have to go into high-speed sync, and I don't want to do that. I want to maximize my power. So that's my camera settings. On the light, with the translucent, with the shoot through with the diffusion panel on the front of it, we're at a power level of 9.4. So we're a little less than a half a stop from full power. So I don't know, I'm not going to try to quarter that thing out or fraction it out. That's what I meant to say. So 9.4 on the power for the shot with the diffusion panel and the translucent umbrella. I'm going to pull this back a half a stop with the white umbrella with the diffusion panel. That's going to give us roughly the same exposure as what we had with that first shot. This one, with this setup, someone asked if we could do it feathered. I have now feathered it. What I expect to see, and I think this is what's going to happen, is actual more contrast. So you ready, Kate?
Yeah. Someone was saying, I actually jumped over it. Do you suppose the translucent will be harder to feather?
Oh yeah, the translucent with diffusion panel would be impossible to feather because the light's coming from every single direction. Yeah, you're essentially at this point you just made a gigantic globe. So now this is something that's easier to feather. So this should shoot the light right past Kate. It should also make the background go quite a bit darker. You pull that power level back a little bit, like I said. Here we go. 3. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. There you go. More contrast, as I suspected. Beautiful image, though. Nothing wrong with it. It's quite lovely. Here, let me pull them up side by side. The difference between the two is quite dramatic. So if we want to pull all 4 up here really fast, let's do this. So we go there, there, and there. So if you look at these shots, the 2 shots in the middle are the diffusion and translucent umbrella. So it's kind of that big light dome that we were talking about. Here on the edges flanking are your white umbrellas with the diffusion panel. Granted, they're all beautiful. I'm not saying that anything is anything better than the next. The whole point of this is to show you how you can take a translucent umbrella and put a diffusion panel on the front of it and make this kind of the secondary light source by using the room as a fill light. But let's check it out. So the 2 on the edges, more contrasty than the 2 in the middle. With the feathered translucent umbrella here with diffusion panel, I will say that it's kicking more light here to the side. So we are starting to actually bring some more light. My guess is the strip of light between the diffusion panel and the umbrella is a decrease in light output. So we're probably starting to see a little bit of that edge. It's not overly dramatic, so it's not that big of a deal. But we are seeing a little bit more light here than we are here. Whereas here, we're a lot more even. Again, there's still maybe a little bit more light over here on this side, but relatively more even. Cool. And then here, once you start to feather the light away, you're pushing away. This line that you see is the edge of that umbrella. That's your line of demarcation when it comes to that. So you're getting way more contrast because you're kicking any light over here away from that background. So all really, really beautiful. Shadow differences, it actually looks like it's hardening up a little bit here just because we're using more of the edge of the light than we are the directness of the light, whereas here we're kind of feathered out a little bit more subtle. So all cool things. That was fun.
I don't see any more questions in here.
That was super duper fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was super fun. I really appreciate all the contributions, the extra of the feathering the light, moving it over to the other side just so we can kind of see some other stuff. Really, really cool suggestions, and I appreciate that. I thought this was going to be a little bit shorter than it actually wound up being, and it wound up being perfect. So thank you to everybody for chiming in and helping us work through some of this stuff. It's really, really fun. So again, what we're doing, just show it to you one more time. Handheld. Traditionally, when it comes to umbrella setups and diffusers, what you're used to seeing is what you see over here to my right. So this umbrella here with a traditional solid back pant or a solid back umbrella, so like a white interior or a silver interior umbrella with a diffusion panel over the front of it. What that's going to give you is a really quick softbox. Beautiful light, super even, as you can see from the images that we were sharing just a moment ago. Lovely stuff. Now, what I was showing you is that you can take a translucent umbrella, something that you're used to seeing all the time, and instead of throwing a covered panel on the back of this to keep light from making stray light, we're making stray light. We threw a diffusion panel on the back of it. So now you have this modifier that you can get light from in every single direction. Really cool stuff. And what we do is we utilize this portion of it to light our subject, and we utilize this portion of it to hit the walls and the ceiling of the room, filling it in, giving you a nice room fill, decreasing that contrast, and essentially giving you a second light source.
So this essentially works in studio white.
Yes, this is an in-studio setup. You need the, and that's why I try to make sure I say room fill. You need something to bounce off of. You, in theory, could bounce it off of a white wall. Like, so say you were out shooting outside and you wanted to light the subject, but you wanted a little bit more fill than what you were getting. And there happens to be like a white box truck or a billboard or a white wall or something like that. You could position this thing close to the wall, let that light hit it and bounce forward, and you could do the same thing. So you don't have to be in studio. You just have to be aware of your surroundings when you're trying to utilize that technique. So just something to keep in mind. The upside for doing it outside, though, is a lot of times you get to use the sun or ambient light as your room fill. You don't necessarily need that setup. But when you're inside, and again, you might be struggling with space, you might be struggling with gear limitations, this is a really smart way of utilizing umbrellas to give you a little bit, to enhance that look a little bit more, drop that contrast down, especially if someone's looking for a setup that's really light and airy. That's a great setup. So any other questions?
No.
Perfect.
Someone was saying, is that Annie Leibovitz modifier setup, isn't it?
A lot of people use umbrellas with diffusion panels. You do see Annie using umbrellas with diffusion panels quite a bit. One, they're lovely. They're really, really beautiful, and they're really easy to set up and break down. You're not fighting with kind of building and setting up soft boxes. The upside now is we have these new Profoto soft boxes that kind of click together, which are a little more rigid. Because the downside for an umbrella is if you don't have a sandbag or something holding this and you're outside, if this takes a tumble, there's a chance you're going to lose the umbrella. So it's not always guaranteed, but I've lost like 2, I think. But they saved my flash, so that was the upside.
Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you.
Annie, so cool. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If there's anything that you want to see, we have some cool stuff planned coming up here in the near future. So if there's anything that you want to see, any techniques you want to see us cover, anything you want to see us photograph, or any topics you want us to talk about, let us know. Hit us up. You can DM me. Kate's going to throw up my Instagram handle, because that's honestly probably the fastest way to get in touch with me is via.
Send Chris a DM. Yeah.
Is it up there?
Yeah,
perfect.
Sure.
So it's there. That's me at @Chris Shoot me a DM. If I'm slow to get back to you, do it again. I try to get back in there, but sometimes I miss the little request logo. But shoot me a message. I'd love to talk to you. If you have any lighting questions yourself, again, DM me. We'll talk about it, or you can hit us up at Profoto. The Profoto Instagram is easy. You can do the Facebook stuff like that too, or on our website. So cool. Thank you all so much. Thanks for hanging out with us. I hope you have an awesome rest of your week. See you next time on Geared Up. Peace out.